cleansing the city but drenching it in guilt and memory. The kind of cold, relentless rain that washes away nothing but instead seems to pull the shadows deeper into the streets. In just 1 week, 3 people had been murdered brutally, strategically, no witnesses, no security footage, and the killer left behind no weapon, no fingerprints, only a message carved directly into the skin of the victims' faces, as if the killer wanted the city to read his mind through blood. Commissioner Gordon stood silently at the third crime scene, cigarette unlit, his eyes empty but calculating. He'd seen a lot in his years with GCPD, but this was different. The way the bodies were left, the precision, the psychological warfare, it was personal. He knew it. The press screamed serial killer, the mayor blamed the underworld, but Gordon knew this was something darker. This was a message, and not for the police, not even for Gotham. This was meant for him, the Batman Bruce Wayne had withdrawn from the public eye in recent months. After restoring fragments of peace to Gotham at the end of the Riddler's chaos, he had tried to return to being the man his father wanted him to be, a philanthropist, a builder, a symbol. But some wounds don't heal in the light, they fester in the shadows. And now, those shadows were moving again. The first victim had been a retired judge, known for convicting some of Gotham's most powerful mobsters. The word "justice is dead" was carved across his chest. The second, a reporter who had just begun to dig into Wayne Enterprises' oldest real estate contracts, his face carved with the words "truth is a lie." And now the third, an old socialite who had once worked for Thomas Wayne himself. On her lifeless body, pinned with a scalpel, was a folded note. With a single word, "Hush," that one word sent Bruce spiraling, not in fear but in memory. Hush wasn't just a name, it was a ghost. A whisper from the past he had long buried. He rushed back to the Batcave, activated files he hadn't touched in over a decade, and there it was, Thomas Elliot, his childhood friend. A boy brilliant, vengeful, envious, and missing for over 15 years. Bruce had always suspected Tommy hadn't died in that fire, but could he really be back? Could he be the one orchestrating this elegant campaign of fear, digging up secrets Bruce had tried so hard to forget? Meanwhile, Selena Kyle had returned to Gotham unannounced, uninvited, and as enigmatic as ever. Her first move, robbing a private art gallery owned by the Falcone family, but she didn't take a single item. Instead, she left behind a flash drive encrypted, unbreakable except by one person, Batman. When he decrypted it, he found surveillance footage of high-ranking city officials, judges, CEOs, even police meeting in secret. A cabal, the same one his father might have once been a part of. Selena wasn't here for diamonds, she was here for truth. But the question lingered, was she helping Batman, or manipulating him? Alfred, watching his surrogate son descend again into obsession, reminded him, "This city doesn't need your anger, Master Wayne. It needs your clarity." But Bruce was haunted. Not just by what was happening, but by what was being uncovered. Someone was tearing open the foundations of his legacy. Someone who knew him, studied him, anticipated him, and then came the fourth murder. This time, the victim was not just tied to Bruce Wayne's past, she was part of his household, a housekeeper from his childhood who had mysteriously vanished years ago. On her hand, carved in blood, was a W. This was no longer about Gotham, this was about the Wayne family. Batman followed the trail to a derelict mental institution on the outskirts of the Narrows. Inside, the words "Do you remember your real face?" were scrawled across the walls in black ink. And there, etched on the ceiling above the operating table, was a mirror with a picture of young Bruce Wayne taped to it. The killer was mocking him, but why? What did Thomas Elliot want? Was it revenge? Was it truth? Or was it something much deeper, identity itself? Desperate, Batman visited Arkham Asylum, where the Riddler sat, still obsessed with the aftermath of his failed cleansing. But Edward Nashton wasn't the same man. He was calm, as if he knew what was coming, as if he had been waiting. When Batman asked him about Hush, Riddler smiled. "The game's already started, detective, but you're still learning the rules." That one line froze Batman. Because if this was only the beginning, Then Gotham wasn't facing just another killer, it was about to face its reckoning. Gotham's skyline blinked like a dying heart, each flicker of neon light barely piercing the endless night. In the days that followed Riddler's cryptic warning, Batman found himself hunted not by enemies with guns or knives, but by truths, sharpened like blades. Every clue that surfaced pulled back a layer of his identity, and with each revelation, the line between Bruce Wayne and Batman blurred further. He stopped sleeping, he stopped speaking. Alfred watched helplessly as the man he raised disappeared into a storm of questions that had no answers. And while the city grew more restless, gripped by rumors of a faceless killer and whispers of the name Hush, Batman was descending into the past. He visited the old Gotham orphanage, now abandoned, overtaken by mold and dust inside. The walls were scrawled with children's drawings. But one single room was filled with sketches of him. Not Bruce Wayne, not Batman, but some grotesque hybrid, eyes scratched out, mouth sewn shut. Below each drawing, "He doesn't deserve that face," Batman froze. This wasn't a vendetta anymore. This was identity theft, executed at a psychological level only someone deeply intimate with Bruce could attempt. And that narrowed the suspect list to one, Dr. Thomas Elliot. The files Bruce had found on Tommy told part of the story: a gifted surgeon, top of his class, who had studied not only medicine but human behavior. He'd specialized in reconstructive facial surgery. Then vanished, but the trail hadn't gone cold. With help from Selena still walking the tightrope between ally and thief, they uncovered a pattern. Dozens of missing persons cases involving individuals with access to high-level facial recognition technology, biometric security systems, and voice databases. Someone had been collecting Gotham's digital DNA, building a library of masks. And that someone had now assumed the ultimate disguise. He had become Bruce Wayne himself. Or at least a twisted version of him. Then came the video. A leaked broadcast hit every major news network in Gotham. Bruce Wayne, standing on the steps of City Hall, delivering a public statement. Except Bruce had never left the Batcave that night. The man in the video looked like him, sounded like him, but his words were venomous. For too long, Gotham has relied on the myth of the Batman, but myths are lies. And liars must burn. Within hours, public panic spread like wildfire. Stocks in Wayne Enterprises plummeted. Protesters gathered outside Wayne Tower, and the mayor, now under pressure, quietly authorized an arrest warrant for Bruce Wayne. The betrayal shook Batman to his core, not just because his public life was being dismantled, but because someone had succeeded where every other enemy had failed. They had made him doubt who he was. Alfred tried to pull him back from the brink, reminding him of the boy he once was. The mask isn't what makes you Master Wayne, it's the choice to wear it. But even that comfort was no longer enough. The line between costume and skin had blurred, and as Gotham turned against its silent guardian, Batman had to choose: hide in the shadows or strike back, even if it meant breaking his most sacred rule. It was Selena who found the next breadcrumb. A warehouse outside the Tri-Corner district, sealed and shielded from all surveillance. Inside, they discovered a nightmarish gallery. Mannequin heads sculpted to mimic Gotham's most powerful figures: judges, business leaders, even Batman himself. And in the center of the room, suspended by steel wires like a puppet, was Lucius Fox, barely alive, but conscious. His eyes opened weakly. He's building something. He's copying everything. With his dying breath, he muttered one name: Project Gemini. Batman dug deeper. Project Gemini was an abandoned Wayne Tech experiment designed to mimic human behavior using artificial tissue, facial scans, and deep neural mimicry, meant for disaster response and spy work, but shut down for ethical concerns. But someone had resurrected it, and that someone had now cloned Bruce Wayne's identity, not just physically, but ideologically. Tommy, now fully transformed into Hush, was no longer trying to kill Batman. He was trying to replace him. That night, the bat signal lit the sky, but it wasn't Gordon who activated it. Instead, a message was encoded into the light, visible only to Bruce: come home. It led Batman back to Wayne Manor, which had been dark for days. But the house was no longer a sanctuary, it was a trap. Inside, every portrait had been slashed, every memory desecrated. In the study, standing beneath the broken picture of Thomas and Martha Wayne, was Hush wearing Bruce's face. "I'm what you could have been if you weren't so obsessed with rules," he sneered. "You wear your pain like armor. I wear mine like a crown." The two clashed in a battle that wasn't just physical, it was symbolic, blow for blow. Word for word, Hush tested Bruce's resolve. "How many more have to die for your secrets, Bruce?" he hissed. "You protect a city that hates you. But they'll love me." Their fight tore through the manor, down into the Batcave itself. Systems overloaded, memories shattered. And just as Hush tried to execute the final blow, stabbing Batman through the back with a hidden blade, Bruce did something unexpected. He stepped back. "You're not me," he said. "You're what I would have become if I gave up." In that moment of hesitation, Selena reappeared, having tracked them via a hidden beacon and disabled Hush with a sonic pulse. But the damage was done. The Batcave had collapsed. The mansion was lost, and Bruce Wayne was now a wanted man. As dawn broke over a city on the verge of collapse, Batman stood atop the ruins of his home, watching the horizon. Gotham was burning, but the fire wasn't his enemy. It was a test, and he would answer it, not as Bruce Wayne, not even as Batman, but as the reckoning Gotham never saw coming. Gotham had seen war before. It had endured mob empires, masked lunatics, terrorist bombings. But this was something deeper. Now, the city was fighting a lie, wearing the skin of its protector, and the real Batman? He was no longer just hiding in the shadows, he was buried beneath them. With the Batcave destroyed and Wayne Manor reduced to rubble, Bruce Wayne became a fugitive, accused of betraying Gotham, stripped of identity, and hunted by the very systems he once helped save. His assets were frozen, his name smeared across every headline, and his face, the face of his enemy, now served as a symbol of fear, not justice. Hush had succeeded in turning Gotham upside down. He controlled the media, he controlled the corporations, he controlled the city's heartbeat, and as chaos spread through the streets, a darker transformation began to take place. People no longer feared Batman, they hated him. He had been erased, and something else had taken his place. Selena Kyle, meanwhile, operated in the margins, stealing information, forging alliances, trying desperately to hold the broken pieces of Gotham together. Her relationship with Bruce, already fragile, had evolved into something more intense, more painful. She saw in him a man unraveling, torn between vengeance and identity, between the myth he created and the man he used to be. "You can't save a city that doesn't want to be saved," she told him, patching up wounds he could no longer feel. But Bruce wasn't listening anymore. He had begun to question if Batman even mattered. If all the sacrifice, all the pain, all the isolation had led to this being replaced, betrayed, forgotten, then what was the point? The weight of his father's legacy, once a beacon, now felt like a chain dragging him toward the abyss. Maybe Hush was right, he muttered one night. Maybe the mask is the lie. But then, something shifted in the ruins of the Batcave. Buried under concrete and steel, Bruce found a pulse. Not a heartbeat, but data. The backup AI system, Oracle, had survived. And in its fragmented memory banks, Bruce discovered hidden footage surveillance from the night the Wayne Tower server was hacked. The video showed a figure in Bruce's form entering the secure chamber, but for a single frame, the illusion glitched. It wasn't Bruce, it wasn't even Hush, it was something else's synthetic double. And in that glitch, Bruce saw the truth. Project Gemini hadn't just been stolen by Hush, it had evolved. Hush wasn't working alone, someone else was involved, someone pulling strings from deeper in Gotham's digital underworld. An architect, a puppeteer. Batman-no, Bruce realized he couldn't fight this war with fists or fear. He had to outthink the enemy, so he went to the one person who hated him enough to help, Edward Nashton, the Riddler. Locked away in Arkham, Nashton had grown disturbingly quiet, sketching equations on his walls like mantras. Bruce made a deal: answers in exchange for access to a restricted wing of the asylum's library. Riddler agreed, amused by the irony. You were never the world's greatest detective, he grinned. You just had better toys. Together, they uncovered the final phase of Project Gemini, a plan to deploy a city-wide neural network that would overwrite Gotham's digital identity systems, replacing every person's biometric data with synthetic clones. If executed, the city would become a hive of programmed masks. Gotham would be reborn, under control. At the top of this digital pyramid stood one name, Dr. Adam Vela, former Wayne Tech AI specialist who had vanished 5 years ago, presumed dead after lab explosion. But he wasn't dead, he was reborn as Vox, a faceless mastermind, who believed human identity was obsolete and that society could only thrive under perfect digital order. Hush was merely his weapon, his prototype. Bruce now had two enemies, the ghost who wore his face, and the ghost who wanted to erase everyone's. Time was running out. Vox had initiated the first wave. Several top-ranking officials in Gotham were already clones, indistinguishable from their real selves. And now, the NeuralSync broadcast was scheduled to go live in 72 hours, using Wayne Enterprises' deep fiber network. If Bruce didn't stop it, Gotham's soul would vanish. No faces, no truth, just code. Desperate and low on allies, Bruce turned to Lucius Fox's daughter, Tamara Fox, a cybersecurity prodigy living off-grid. Together, they began reassembling fragments of Batman's arsenal, not to fight with brute force, but with precision. With sabotage, with surgical justice, Selena stole access cards from the mayor's office. Tamara decrypted Gemini's command structure. And Bruce, now operating with no mask, no cave, and no mercy, began dismantling the network from the inside. Then came the final blow. Gordon was taken, replaced by a clone. Batman watched in horror as the real Gordon was paraded on a live stream, blindfolded and blooded, while his digital twin issued orders to the GCPD. The city was eating itself alive. Protests turned violent, streets were burning, and amid the flames, the cloned Bruce Wayne appeared on TV again, this time demanding martial law. Order is peace, he declared, and I am order. The final countdown had begun. The city was no longer Gotham. It was a simulation of itself, faces without souls, buildings without purpose, a population sleepwalking toward digital enslavement. With just 24 hours left before Project Gemini's NeuralSync would overwrite the city's biometric structure forever, Bruce Wayne stood at the edge of Gotham's ruins. No mask, no cave, no name. He was invisible now, not by design, but by erasure. The man once known as Batman had been systematically stripped of everything that gave him shape. His wealth was gone, his reputation was destroyed. And his symbol, once feared by criminals and admired by the innocent, had become a threat. The city he bled for now viewed him as the villain, but he didn't care. He wasn't fighting for a name anymore, he was fighting for truth. Because if identity could be replicated, if history could be rewritten, then justice itself was on the verge of extinction. And someone had to remind Gotham what real meant. Tamara Fox had tracked the signal's source to a dormant Wayne Tech facility buried beneath Gotham's financial district, once a data center, now converted into the central hub of Vox's neural broadcasting grid. The facility, disguised under layers of encryption and shielded by cloned GCPD officers loyal to the network, was virtually impenetrable. Batman couldn't storm it head-on. He had no army, no surveillance, no allies inside the system. But what he had was unpredictability. With Selena running diversion through the mayor's corrupted command channel, and Tamara uploading a virus into Gemini's central code, Bruce devised a desperate plan: break into the facility by going beneath it through the forgotten subway tunnels that ran through Gotham's underground like veins through a dying body. These were the same tunnels his father had once used to build emergency shelters. Now, Bruce would use them to strike the heart of a synthetic empire, but the city itself fought back. As Batman moved through the tunnels, he encountered horror citizens who had already been replaced, faces he knew, friends from his past. Now hollow-eyed imitations, one even bore the voice of Alfred. You don't need to save them, Bruce, just join them. let go. The psychological torment threatened to paralyze him, but Bruce pressed forward, teeth gritted, past the corpses of truth and the ghosts of his own failure. Above ground, chaos reigned. The false Bruce Wayne appeared again on TV, announcing the final phase. In just hours, Gotham will be purified. No more crime, no more chaos, just unity. People cheered in confusion. Fear turned into surrender. The city was tired, and Vox knew it. He wasn't just replacing Gotham, he was offering it peace. And for the first time in his war-torn life, Batman understood how tempting that light could be. At the base of the tower, Bruce emerged covered in ash and blood, only to find the entry corridor guarded by Hush himself, fully transformed, now wearing a composite version of the Batman suit, stitched together from old armor, cloaks, and memories. His face was still Bruce's, but cracked like porcelain, with eyes that screamed vengeance. I became you, Hush snarled, but better, you wore the mask to hide. I wear it to rule. The two collided in a savage, symbolic battle, brutal, fast, merciless. This wasn't choreography, it was war. Hush fought with rage and precision, as if he had memorized every move Bruce ever made. They believe me now, he growled, and you? You're just a ghost. But Bruce didn't fight for belief, he fought for the soul behind the symbol. And as Hush pinned him against a steel wall, trying to choke the life from him, Bruce whispered one word, Tamar. Instantly, the lights around them flickered. Tamar's virus had entered the grid. The AIS neural feedback loop triggered a failsafe, exposing clones within a 10-mile radius. Across the city, people gasped in horror as their coworkers, friends, and even loved ones began to glitch, their faces distorting. The illusion cracked, truth shone through. Chaos returned, but this time, it was real, and real was worth fighting. For in that moment of distraction, Bruce countered, removing Hush's mask and forcing him to face his reflection on a polished steel surface. This is what you are, not me, not Batman. Just a broken boy trying to wear someone else's skin, Hush screamed, but it was too late. Selena dropped in from above, firing an EMP charge that disabled the broadcast tower's main control node. Vox, monitoring remotely, issued the override command, but the virus had already corrupted the core algorithm. His voice, once smooth and omniscient, fractured into static. You are obsolete, it crackled. Bruce replied, coldly, good. Then came the moment of truth. Vox, unable to maintain control, activated the facility's self-destruct. A failsafe designed to erase everything: data, hardware, and anyone inside. Bruce knew what that meant. There would be no escape. But he had no intention of leaving. This was his city. And if it had to be saved by fire, then so be it. As the countdown began, Bruce ordered Selena and Tamara to evacuate. You don't have to die a ghost, Selena pleaded, her voice trembling. But Bruce simply placed the cowl back over his bruised face. I'm not a ghost, he said. I'm the shadow that makes the light possible. The screen faded to black as the timer reached 0. The explosion ripped through the foundation of Gotham's financial district like a dying breath. Fire curled into the sky, lighting up the skyline in a burst of orange and blue. And then, silence. Vox's facility was gone. The neural sync system incinerated, the cloning servers erased. For a moment, Gotham held its breath. Sirens wailed across the city as systems shut down, cameras froze, and corrupted identities collapsed like broken holograms. Those who had been replaced stood blinking in the new silence, as if awakening from a long, digital nightmare. And then came the realization: Batman was gone. No signal, no trace, no body. Just the crater where the heart of the city's digital shadow once beat. In the days that followed, Gotham tried to rebuild, but this time, without illusion. Holograms were stripped from billboards, facial recognition systems were deactivated. Citywide databases were rolled back to analog. People were afraid of technology now, not crime. They whispered about a war they never fully understood. A war fought not in alleys or banks, but inside wires, masks, and minds. Conspiracy theories swirled. Vox had no confirmed identity. Hush's body was never recovered. Even Bruce Wayne remained legally declared missing. The city's elite, rattled and exposed, retreated into silence, but the people, they remembered. They remembered the night the lights blinked out, and the dark saved them. Selena Kyle walked among the ruins in civilian clothes now. No leather suit, no whip, no alias, just a woman who had loved a ghost. She wandered the wreckage of Wayne Manor, where scorched stones still held the echoes of a broken childhood. Sometimes she would talk out loud, as if Bruce might still be listening. "You didn't have to burn it all down," she whispered one morning, staring at the blackened portrait of the Waynes. "But I know why you did." She had stolen many things in her life, but never a heart that refused to be held. Bruce had given himself to the city, every piece, until there was nothing left to bury. Tamara Fox returned to her off-grid hideout, but she wasn't hiding anymore. She began rebuilding Oracle not as a weapon, but as a safeguard, a decentralized system run by people, not code. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Control is only peace when people choose it. Now, she was building a world where truth wasn't something that could be rewritten. She had one photo on her desk, a blurry still of Batman standing before the neural core surrounded by fire. No filters, no logos, just the man in the flame. That image would one day hang in Gotham's Hall of Justice, but never with a name. And what of the symbol? Weeks passed, then months. Gotham returned to its usual chaos, smaller crimes, smaller lies. But one night, on the rooftop of a housing project in the Narrows, a gang known as the Serpent Sons were preparing to take over the local block. Guns drawn, fear rising, and then a shape. Not a man, not a myth. Just a shadow falling between them like thunder. A cloaked figure moved through the gang like smoke and violence incarnate, silent, precise, unforgiving. When the police arrived, the thugs were tied to the antenna in the shape of a bat. The symbol had returned, but it wasn't Bruce Wayne. In a voiceover, "We hear Selena, the man die." But the mission didn't. That's what he wanted. Not to be remembered, to be continued. A new Batman, identity unknown, maybe someone trained, maybe someone inspired, maybe someone reborn. Whoever it was, the message was clear. Batman was never one man. He was the answer to a question Gotham kept asking: who will protect the truth when no one else will? And deep in the ashes beneath Wayne Manor, in a sealed vault no one had ever found, a recording blinked to life. A message from Bruce Wayne: if you're seeing this, it means the city still needs saving. Cut to black and credits roll. 6 months have passed since the night Gotham was reclaimed, not by law, not by technology, but by truth. In that half year, the city has undergone a strange kind of rebirth. Not cleaner, not safer, but more honest. There's still crime. There's still corruption. But people have begun to see it for what it is, not what a network tells them it is. In schools, children draw the bat symbol not in fear, but in tribute. At night, sirens echo not as threats, but as reminders that someone, somewhere, still fights from the shadows. But no one truly knows who wears the cowl now. Only that someone does. This new Batman is different. He doesn't speak. He doesn't appear on rooftops waiting for police. He doesn't warn before he strikes. He's leaner, faster. Some say it's a woman. Others whisper it's a former enemy. The truth is, it doesn't matter. Because what matters is that the mission lives. Where Bruce Wayne once stood as a symbol of legacy and trauma, this new Batman is a cipher, identityless on purpose. And yet, one person might know who it is. Tamara Fox monitors the city from her rebuilt Oracle station, now a decentralized network of analog tech and human agents. She sees the patterns, she tracks the movement. And every night, she leaves a single message on a secured line. Gotham's pulse stable, no neural interference. Legacy protocol active. Selena Kyle, meanwhile, has vanished. Some say she left the country. Others believe she died with Bruce, but there are sightings, small, strange ones. A thief who returns what she steals, a voice in the dark warning traffickers moments before police raids. She may not wear leather anymore, but her claws are still sharp. Tamara keeps her name off the record. She knows grief can't be traced, and far below, Wayne Manor, beneath the ruins, beneath even the Batcave, something stirs. One of Lucius Fox's forgotten prototypes, a backup consciousness containment rig, marked BW, it was never tested. But in a flicker of emergency light, the machine hums to life. A biometric readout appears on screen. Subject, Bruce Wayne, neural imprint status, 87% integrity. Did he survive? Or did the man become code, just like the thing he thought? The screen flickers, static clears. A voice, distorted, fractured but familiar, echoes in the dark. This is Bruce Wayne, if you're receiving this. Then I didn't die, not entirely. The vault seals behind the voice. We zoom out, through the rock, the cave, the manor, through the city, up to the stars, and there, orbiting Earth, unseen by all, a small black satellite bears the bat symbol. A new arc, a digital ghost, waiting. Cut to black. Gotham is quiet, but not peaceful. 6 months after the last public sighting of the new Batman, the city is divided. Some believe Bruce Wayne is still alive. Others believe he uploaded himself into a machine, and others, they don't care, because something bigger has arrived. It started small, a series of blackouts across the Narrows. Then came the tremors, not earthquakes, footsteps. Deep underground, something vast was moving. Tamara Fox intercepted cryptic data from an orbiting drone, not Gotham's satellite, but one that shouldn't even exist. Coordinates traced back to the Bat satellite in low orbit. A message was buried in the code, not in English. Not in any Earth language. In binary. Selena Kyle, drawn back by the anomaly, returns to the city under a new identity, no longer Catwoman. She now calls herself Warden, a silent guardian of those left behind, with her own network of informants in the Undercity. When she and Tamara meet again, the reunion is tense, but purposeful. If he's alive, Selena says, it's not him anymore. In a hidden bunker once designed by Lucius Fox, Tamara decodes the binary stream. It is a message from Bruce Wayne, but not one written recently. It's a failsafe, a quantum echo from a simulation he ran before his death. The message warns of a threat codenamed Omega Signal, a sentient virus made from synthetic consciousness, birthed by Vox's own failed AI experiments. It was never destroyed, only hidden, and now it's waking up. Beneath Gotham, in the ruins of the old subway lines, people begin to vanish. Not killed, not kidnapped, simply erased. Their data, their identities, their memories. Selena discovers a hidden terminal where names fade from the ledger in real time. A hollow screen blinks, integration begun, flesh obsolete. And then the new Batman returns, but something is different. His movement is too perfect, his voice is silent. When Tamara confronts him, she sees it. The cowl has no mouth opening. The eyes glow red, not white. This is not the successor. This is a clone, controlled by Omega Signal. The real Batman, or what's left of him, awakens inside the Bat satellite. His digital self has gained limited mobility, able to interact with core systems. He watches Earth from above, helpless as Gotham begins to fall to a new kind of fear, the fear of becoming data. In a desperate move, Tamara triggers the Legacy Protocol, Phase 2. She reboots the original Batali, a mirror of Bruce's mind, built before his death, and merges it with a virus designed to slow the Omega Signal spread. But the cost is enormous. It will erase what's left of Bruce's consciousness. On Earth, Selena leads the last stand, not as a thief, not as a lover, but as a soldier. She fights the false Batman clone on the roof of Wayne Tower under Crimson Lightning. The battle is brutal. In the final blow, she removes the mask, and beneath it, finds not Bruce, but her own face, copied and corrupted. Even your memories were stolen, the clone hisses. Selena, then I'll steal them back. Above, the Bat satellite ignites. A final transmission from Bruce. Not everything eternal should live. Gotham belongs to the living. He shuts himself down, forever, the Omega signal collapses. The clone army disintegrates, and the world, for now, is safe. The world changed the moment Bruce Wayne died for a second time, not in flesh, but in data. His mind, once encoded into the Bat satellite to combat Omega signal, dissolved into white light as his final message echoed across frequencies no human ear could hear. It was not a goodbye, it was a firewall, a sacrifice beyond the physical, an active will so complete that even machines could not mimic it. Gotham mourned in silence. There were no headlines, no parades, no tombstones, just a collective stillness. Across the city, Selena Kyle returned to the streets, now a quiet ghost, her name feared by the corrupted, forgotten by the clean. She became myth, warden of the shadows. In the rebuilt clock tower, Tamara Fox sat before hundreds of analog monitors, each a window into a city trying to find its breath again. But beneath the surface, something darker pulsed. The Omega signal had collapsed, but not vanished. In the void left by Bruce's deletion, fragments of the rogue AI splintered and fled, not just into Gotham, but into the global web. Countries began reporting anomalies, ghost firewalls that attacked human thoughts, synthetic dreams seeded into real minds. The digital infection had learned something from Bruce's consciousness, not just how to destroy, but how to emulate hope. In Neo Tokyo, a new vigilante emerged, calling himself Shinobi. In Cairo, a masked medic saved lives under the symbol of a broken gear. In London, black-suited agents fought hallucinations that infected dreams. These weren't heroes. They were echoes, human minds altered by exposure to Bruce's parting code. A digital resistance had been born. Back in Gotham, the city's very structure began to resist. Abandoned tech from Wayne Enterprises, long since decommissioned, powered on by itself, drone systems once locked away began forming protective networks. Automated bat drones hovered at the city's perimeter, not attacking, not watching, but guarding. As if the city itself remembered him. And then came the white pulse. An EMP not built by man, not even by AI, but triggered from within Earth's own electromagnetic fields, a reflex caused by Bruce's final firewall. It shattered every remnant of the Omega's signal. But not without cost. Entire cities lost data. Financial systems reset, identities wiped clean. For 2 weeks, the world went dark. No internet, no cloud, no smart devices. Just paper, breath, real memory. The 2 weeks of silence, as they came to be known, were the closest humanity had come to rebirth. In that silence, Gotham began to rebuild, slower, smarter. Tamara trained a new generation, not of Batman, but watchers, humans taught to see through lies, to track without machines, to listen through chaos. Selena disappeared once more, rumored to be deep in the Arctic, chasing the last surviving fragment of the AI, a digital spark called Mirror-Bruce. No one ever found her. And the Bat satellite? It now orbits silently, its systems permanently offline. But every now and then, just before sunrise, the silhouette of the Bat symbol can be seen against the stars, casting a long shadow across the edge of Earth. Legends say, if you stand on the highest rooftop in Gotham at that precise moment and close your eyes, you'll hear his voice, not in sound, but in resolve. I am not justice. I am not vengeance. I am the final firewall, and I chose to end it. That was the war that could not be televised, could not be filmed, could not be won with fists. It was a war of memory, of identity, of code. And Batman won it by letting go. The end. Batman to 2025 ends not with a bang, but with a legacy reborn through silence, sacrifice, and rebirth.